By the end of month 12, their polished facade collapsed in front of our extended family. A luxury car disappeared from their driveway in broad daylight, and the people who called me ungrateful went very quiet. I am 32. My name is Samantha Reed. I am a vice president of marketing at a fintech in New York City. I am the responsible one, the spreadsheet girl, the person you call when something needs fixing and you do not want to admit it is broken. For years, I thought I understood betrayal. I thought it was private. I learned it can be staged for a camera and wrapped in a speech about love. What they did not know was simple. I had receipts, 2 full years of bank statements showing that I sent home roughly 40% of my income. Venmo and Zelle transfers labeled groceries, insurance, utilities, rent catch up. A Ring doorbell clip that heard everything. Title and insurance paperwork proving the Bentley they flaunted was not theirs. And most important, the home I would move into had already been placed in a trust with my name quietly and legally long before anyone showed up at my door to demand a deed. If you have ever been the responsible one, the person who solves problems while other people make them, tell me where you are watching from. I know that particular exhaustion behind the eyes. I see you. Let me set the table. I grew up in Westchester. My mother, Linda, has a bright laugh that makes people feel chosen. She married Howard when I was a teenager. He brought his daughter Savannah into our home with the confidence of someone who believes every room is a stage. Savannah is a glossy micro-influencer who calls herself an entrepreneur. Her husband Marcus is an idea guy who always seems to be between opportunities. When I talk about being the responsible one, I do not say it to brag. I say it because it became a role I could not resign from. While I built my career in Manhattan and learned to steer 7-figure budgets, I started covering bills back home. At first it was temporary, the family phone plan until they sorted theirs out. Insurance while they waited for a renewal. Utilities in a rough patch. It is funny how the word temporary can take up permanent residence. Over 2 years, I sent home so much that I stopped tracking the favors and started tracking the pattern. Looking back now, the signs were everywhere. 5 kinds of mustard in the fridge and no actual groceries for meals. New lighting for Savannah's content room while I was asked to cover the electric. My mother saying with a smile family first and then changing the subject when I asked for a timeline to unwind the help. I told myself I was lucky and lucky people owe. I told myself this was love. The more I paid, the less my opinions mattered. Competence became a kind of prison I decorated with nice words. You need to know 3 pieces of evidence I planted long before the blow-up. First, the paper trail. I keep clean books. Every transfer, every bill I paid, every text that said, "Can you cover this until Friday?" It all lives in tidy folders. Second, the car. The Bentley Bentayga that became a prop in Savannah's stories was titled and insured. In my name, a mistake disguised as generosity. I could prove it, and I will get to that. Third, the house. After years of distance, my father Daniel came back into my life with steady apologies and steady actions. He and his wife Lisa helped me move into a small, light-filled condo in Brooklyn. We placed it in a trust that protects it. That one legal step matters later because when people arrived at my door demanding that I hand over my home for a baby, the paperwork had already said no for me. Profession and place matter in stories like this. My days are glass offices, whiteboards, and launch calendars. I lead teams, mentor younger marketers, and sit in rooms where numbers decide futures. My compensation is north of $600,000 after taxes, after grants, after everything. It is more than enough to change a family's trajectory. So I did for a long time. The problem is that generosity without boundaries becomes a leak. Leaks do not stop because you hope they will. I tell stories for a living, so I know how to place a hook. The ask that set everything on fire came at a Sunday dinner with a long table and a longer guest list. Before we go there, you needed to see the pattern. Because once you see the pattern, the request for a $40,000 honeymoon deposit is not a surprise. It is the bill arriving for a story someone else has been telling about you. What they did not know was that I had already stopped underwriting the narrative. My accounts were clean, my passwords were changed, my credit was frozen at all 3 bureaus. And the next time someone said family first to justify a shakedown, there would be more than feelings on my side. There would be law. That is the setup. Responsible one versus golden child. Westchester roots Manhattan career. Brooklyn home in a trust. 2 years of quiet sacrifice. Receipts collected. A camera that does not forget. And a birthday that would turn into a public fundraiser with my name on the invitation and someone else's hands on the envelope. We will start at that Sunday table, then the birthday, then the doorstep. And after that, the plan. Calm, documented, legal. I learned that day that love does not require making yourself small. It requires telling the truth and standing still when other people perform. Looking back now, I can name the year the house tipped. Not the address, the gravity. The year when responsibility stopped being something I carried with pride and started being something other people placed on my back because I would not drop it. Westchester was quiet and leafy and full of rules no one wrote down. My mother, Linda, was the mayor of favors. If someone needed a ride, she drove. If someone needed a casserole, she baked. If she needed someone to pay the bill she forgot, she called me and said, "Family first, honey, you know how it is." Howard moved in with a toolbox and the kind of certainty that fills a room. His daughter, Savannah, arrived with ring lights, a blowout, and a belief that every space exists for a camera. I left for Manhattan and did what strivers do. I stacked internships. I became the person who could land a deck fix, a story calm, a founder. Titles changed. Compensation jumped. I learned to steer budgets that make people sit up straighter. And at home, a different budget began to run through me. It started politely. "Could you add us to your phone plan for a few months? The family rate is cheaper. Could you float the car insurance this quarter? Renewals are messy. Could you set the utilities to autopay? We are traveling for Savannah's content push and do not want the lights to go out." Temporary, temporary, temporary. Such a friendly word. Looking back now, temporary built itself a guest room and never checked out. I'm not going to pretend I hated it at first. Helping made me feel useful. I had more than I needed. I could fix things with a few clicks. It felt like love in action. I told myself this is what lucky people do, lucky people owe. 2 full years slid by like that. Every 4 weeks, money moved. Groceries, gas, insurance, the family plan, the truck payment when Howard's vendor check was late, a rent catch-up from Marcus after a brand deal fell through, which it always seemed to do after he posted a victory cigar selfie. At the end of those 24 months, the ledger told a truth I did not want to say out loud. Roughly 40% of my income, about $480,000 total, had gone to keep a household running that treated my money like water and my boundaries like a suggestion. The more I paid, the less my opinions mattered. If I asked how long the family plan would be on my account, Linda said, "Oh, sweetheart, do not be so corporate." If I asked Savannah why the electric was so high, she laughed and said, "Good lighting is an investment." If I asked Marcus when he would contribute, he grinned and said, "We're on the brink." I learned that brink is a word some people use like a job. There were tells I missed because I was busy being grateful. 5 kinds of mustard in the fridge and no chicken. A new neon sign in Savannah's office that said manifest while my card covered the gas bill that kept the heat on in winter. The way Howard's voice changed when he said the word provider if I suggested we trim expenses. Provider sounded like a coat he liked to wear as long as I paid for the dry cleaning. Looking back now, the Instagram stories were not just content. They were inventory. The designer diaper bag Savannah unboxed months before she was pregnant. The luxury stroller she said she was researching for a brand. The hotel rooms with views that made people write goals in their comments. I was underwriting a lifestyle and calling it love. You will ask, where was my father in all this? The short answer, not in the room. Years earlier, there had been a divorce and an anger that shaped the air. I believed what I was told then. I believed my mother's version. Time has a way of handing you fuller paragraphs. That comes later. For now, it matters that I had no one older in my ear saying, "Stop." It matters that my competence became a closed loop where every crisis found me because I always said yes. I want to be clear about something else. I am not a martyr. I set this up because I loved my family and because I could. I also avoided a harder conversation by paying instead of saying no. Boundaries are cheaper than bailouts. I learned that too late for those 2 years and exactly on time for everything that followed. The pattern hardened in small ways. When I brought groceries, Linda rearranged the pantry so the labels faced out for a photo. When I booked Savannah a dental appointment because she forgot again, she filmed a haul afterward and tagged the dentist, but not me. When I covered the family plan one more month, Howard told a cousin at a barbecue. "We raised a good one. She knows her place." I laughed like it was a joke and died a little like it was not. Every couple of minutes in this story, I want to say looking back now because so many breadcrumbs were there, was here are 3 that mattered most. Breadcrumb 1. I started saving every receipt and screenshot without announcing that I was saving them. Clean books are not just for companies. Transfers labeled groceries or insurance or rent catch-up sat next to texts that said, "Just until Friday or next week for sure." Patterns love paper. Paper does not forget. Breadcrumb 2. My cousin Jenna. Families have watchers. She is ours. She notices who refills the water pitcher and who lets it sit empty. She sits at the edge of rooms and sees both the table and the theater. Over time, she became my quiet validator. A raised eyebrow from her meant, "You are not crazy." Breadcrumb 3. Savannah's close friends list on Instagram included Jenna, not me. Every so often, an unforced confession slid across Jenna's screen. A boomerang of an envelope stuffed with cash. A caption like the envelope will move with a winky face because performative generosity plays well in certain corners of the internet. Jenna screenshotted because she knew how stories get deleted when daylight shows up. She did not send me everything, she sent me enough. The money was one layer, the emotional math was another. My mother loved applause, she loved being the hub. She loved telling people that her eldest was a big deal in the city and her youngest was a star on the rise. She did not love limits. Limits make speeches shorter. Limits make people decide. There were quiet negotiations I lost without realizing it. The garage, once my place to paint on weekends, became Howard's workshop. My old bedroom, empty after I moved to the city, became Savannah's studio because northern light is better for makeup. The mantle lost the lopsided ceramic bowl I made in 7th grade and gained a velvet box for Savannah's brand award. When I noticed, I told myself I was sentimental. When I paid the electric that powered the new ring lights, I told myself I was practical. Both can be true, only one was killing me. If you are listening and hearing your own house in this, I want you to know something. There is no single red flag when the pattern is entitlement. There is 1,000 small ones folded into laughter, smoothed over by the word family, justified by timelines that keep moving. Limits are not cruelty. Limits are clarity. Looking back now, I see how ready the ground was for what came next. The Sunday dinner. The big table. The pitch dressed up as a toast. The ask that sounded like a favor and was really a tax. When people practice on you with small tests, they eventually bring you the big one. I wish I could tell you I saw it coming and braced. I did not brace. I walked in with a bottle of wine and a soft sweater, and a hope that maybe, just maybe, it would be a normal night with roasted chicken and family stories that do not end with my card. The ask was not the only thing that happened at that table. The performance was. Marcus looked like a man who had picked a number he wanted to say out loud just to watch faces. Savannah's eyes held that glossy light influencers get when they imagine the real later. Linda tapped her glass like a master of ceremonies. Howard leaned back as if the world were a chair built for him alone. I sat there and realized I had been playing a role for 2 years. Provider? Problem solver. The person whose yes arrives before the question finishes. Looking back now, I do not judge that version of me. She did what she knew. She did what good daughters are taught to do in houses where love is measured in errands and deposits. I just wish she had learned sooner that competence without boundaries is not kindness. It is consent to be erased. This is the last piece you need before the discovery. 2 years of sacrifice, a clear pattern of financial and emotional exploitation, breadcrumbs collected, a watcher in the family who saves what matters, and me still believing that saying no would make me mean. That is the ground. The match arrives next. Sunday dinner. 14 chairs, 1 long table, roast chicken noisy silverware, and a camera balanced against a water glass because everything is content now. Linda, my mother, tapped her glass, that sound people make when they want the room to belong to them. She smiled at Savannah. Savannah did the influencer bounce, hands clasped like she was holding a wish. We have exciting news, my mother said. Savannah lit up. We are finally doing our honeymoon. Overwater Villa, the Maldives. The content will be unreal. Marcus nodded like a man agreeing with his own pitch. 5 days and 4 nights, he said. He looked at me when he said the numbers. Testing, not informing. I said, that sounds lovely. I meant it. Trips are lovely when you earn them. Marcus cleared his throat. The package is about $40,000. Silence. Then the polite hum of relatives who want to be supportive but also want the check to appear by magic. My mother turned to me, smile bright as a stage light. Family helps family. Samantha, you have savings. You can loan them the deposit. They will pay you back. No, I said, calm, even. No is a full sentence when you practice. Howard set his fork down like a judge setting down a gavel. Ungrateful, he said. Your mother and I gave you a home. Savannah leaned in, eyes wide with choreographed innocence. This is for business. It is content. No, it is a vacation. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. The math raised it for me. Breadcrumb 1. Under the table, my cousin Jenna's phone lit my dress. She texted, are they serious? Jenna is our watcher. She notes where the pitcher sits and who refills it. She would matter more than anyone knew in about a week. Breadcrumb 2. Marcus rotated his phone just enough for Savannah to see a spreadsheet. I caught the header. Deposit due. In a column, a date circled in red. They had not just decided to ask, they had rehearsed it. A breadcrumb 3. The family group chat on my phone pinged. Linda had typed, everyone be kind, Samantha is stressed. Not to me, about me. That is how most of our conversations go, around me like a fence, like a Dinner ended in that sticky way family nights end when a request has detonated and people are still eating like utensils can shield them. I drove home with the windows cracked and the radio off. The night air tasted like a decision. I did not sleep. I opened my laptop. I opened the folder I had kept for 2 years. Proof. Transfers labeled groceries and insurance and rent catch up. Zelle and Venmo, the family plan, the truck, the card, the little emergencies that were never little and never ended. Roughly 40% of my income right there in clean lines totaling about $480,000 over 24 months. Money I sent because I could. Money they spent because it was easy. I stared at the ledger and felt two things at once. Rage cold and efficient. Relief warm and precise. Rage because the pattern was not in my head. Relief because the proof was not either. I told myself I would let the Sunday blow past me. Then came the birthday. They picked a restaurant that photographs well. Twinkly lights, votive candles, a dessert platter shaped like a wreath. I wore a soft sweater and hope. Family first right. Maybe tonight yes would not be a tax. Linda stood glass in hand. My firstborn, she said. We are so proud. She held up an envelope for the camera that a cousin was already holding. We were going to give Samantha $5,000 tonight to make her feel celebrated. Applause, I smiled. Then she turned, still smiling. But we had a thought. Savannah, you and Marcus are saving for a once-in-a-lifetime trip. Samantha does not need this. You do. Happy honeymoon. For a second, the room did not breathe. Then phones lifted. A story went live. Savannah squealed. Marcus grinned like a man who thinks the internet will admire him for efficiency. I sat still. I have learned in boardrooms that silence can be a scalpel. I do not need to bleed to prove I am hurt. Howard said, money does not matter when love is involved. Someone added family first. Someone else laughed too loudly like they were paying with volume. Breadcrumb 4. In the restroom, two cousins did not see me at the mirror. One whispered, she could cover that in a month. The other said, it is not about that. Her face looks like someone who has been paying for years. Their reflection caught my eye and then slid away like they were embarrassed for both of us. Breadcrumb 5. 15 minutes after the envelope switch, Jenna texted me a screen recording. It was from Savannah's close friends list on Instagram, the green circle one. Jenna is on it. I am not. The clip was a quick boomerang from earlier that afternoon, the same white envelope thick with cash tilted in Savannah's hand. A caption spelled in sparkly font, the envelope will move. Winky face. She had posted the punchline before the joke. Jenna knows stories get deleted when daylight shows up. She saved it. Breadcrumb 6. Later that night, after cake, my phone pinged with the family group chat again. Linda wrote, everyone be gracious, Samantha is learning to share. It is odd the way people narrate your life without you. Useful too. Screenshots do not argue. On the ride home, I did something I should have done years earlier. I decided my dignity would not be a group project. I got to my condo and put the cake box on the counter. Powdered sugar stuck to my fingers like dust. The apartment was quiet. In that way, a good decision is quiet. I opened the proof folder again. I added Jenna's screen recording to a subfolder called Birthday. I exported the last 24 months of bank statements into a neat stack. I added the family chat screenshots. The total stared back $480,000. 40%. 2 years. Add the ask for $40,000, add the $5,000 envelope that became a prop, add the sentence family first used like a master key. This is the moment the suspicion turned to certainty. Not because of the amounts, because of the choreography. They had rehearsed taking from me. They had brought an audience. They had built an applause line. I walked through my home. The light was soft. The Ring doorbell glowed a patient blue. Earlier that month, Daniel had helped me place the condo in a trust. We had signed and notarized. We had put the deed somewhere no speech could reach. That paperwork sat in a fireproof box by the safe with my passport. I held the box for a second and felt my spine get very straight. One more breadcrumb. I sat on the bed and opened a new note. A list with dates. Sunday dinner ask for $40,000. Birthday envelope switch for $5,000. Screenshots from close friends, the envelope will move. Group chat messages, bank totals, evidence categories labeled proof harassment vehicles legal. I was not making a plan to yell. I was making a plan to win quietly. Trusted complicity revealed itself in the review. It was not just Savannah and Marcus. It was Linda's performance and Howard's prompt. The way he said ungrateful like a spell. The way she held the envelope like a trophy. The way Marcus rotated the spreadsheet just enough for the room to notice there were numbers, but not enough for anyone to read them. The way Savannah practiced a squeal that sounded spontaneous. I am telling you this carefully because the details matter later. The $5,000 will matter. The $40,000 will matter. The line items will matter. The phrase the envelope will move will matter. When you are up against people who perform entitlement as entertainment, documentation is not petty. Documentation is exigent. I put the cake in the fridge, I washed my hands, I set an alarm. Tomorrow would not be a confrontation, it would be a beginning. That is where discovery ends and awakening begins. Suspicion to certainty in one long week. A dinner that turned into a pitch, a birthday that turned into a fundraiser, a folder that turned into a case. And me very calm, because calm is what happens when you finally stop underwriting someone else's narrative with your silence. Here is the three-layer reveal, clean and in order. First, the surface betrayal. In 1 week, I was asked to front a $40,000 honeymoon deposit at a Sunday table, and then I watched my own $5,000 birthday gift get handed to my sister in a restaurant made for photographs. That is what happened. Second, the deeper conspiracy. It was not impulsive. Jenna's screen recording from Savannah's close friends showed the caption, "The envelope will move hours before dinner." Marcus's spreadsheet at the table had a column labeled "Deposit Due" and a red-circled date. In the family group chat, my mother typed, "Everyone be kind." Samantha is stressed not to me but around me, framing me before I had spoken. This was planned. The performance came with rehearsal. Third, the pattern recognition. 2 full years of me sending roughly 40% of my income home line by line, Zelle, and Venmo transfers. Labeled groceries, insurance, utilities, rent, catch-up. Every yes spawning the next ask. Every temporary turning permanent. Love used like a credit line. Family first as a passcode. Once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. You also cannot stay in it without consenting to your own erasure. Sensory memory sets the moment like a photograph. The restaurant's light was warm and low. Powdered sugar clung to my fingers and turned to paste under the faucet. Outside, the evening sky held that expensive shade of blue right before it goes black. At home, my condo was quiet in the way good decisions are quiet. The Ring doorbell pulsed a small, patient blue. Paper lived where it should live, a trust already filed for the condo deed, shielded and notarized, sitting in a fireproof box. When I touched the folder, the facts steadied my spine in a way permission never had. Looking back now, the breadcrumbs arranged themselves. Jenna's screen recording of the envelope will move complete with the green circle badge that proves the post was meant for trust, not scrutiny. Group chat messages narrating me as stressed before I had answered. Useful for context, vital for motive. 24 months of statements, adding to roughly $480,000 of support, the quiet math behind every speech about family. Title and insurance documents for a Bentley Bentayga in my name. A mistake disguised as generosity that would soon become leverage. The trust paperwork for my home finalized before any doorstep demand could try to pry it open. A calendar note where I began listing events with dates and sources. Sunday ask birthday envelope screenshots, totals, not rage, in their record keeping. I did not need a fight. I needed clarity. Awakening is not a shout. It is the moment you stop asking for a kinder version of the truth and start acting on the one you can prove. The doorstep came next. My mother, bright and furious. Howard, jaw set. Savannah with a sweater that made her belly the center of the frame. Marcus in a cap that hid nothing. They pushed the line of my porch, but not the threshold. The camera blinked its little blue eye. "We need to see your deed," my mother said. "Savannah is pregnant. A grandchild needs a home. You do not deserve that condo. Family first." The air smelled like cold leaves and detergent. The wooden step under my heel creaked. A plane stitched a white line across that expensive blue sky. It is funny what your senses file during a moment that becomes evidence. The universe stays ordinary while other people audition for control. I kept my voice level. "The condo is held in a trust. It is not up for discussion. You are not coming inside." Howard said, "Ungrateful," the way some men say prayer. Marcus said, "We need the deed," like he was negotiating a brand deal. Savannah tried to soften it with a hand on her belly and a practiced tremble. "Family first," my mother repeated, because for her it is both creed and crowbar. The ring caught everything. The words, the tone, the way I did not move. Later, when I replayed it, you could even hear the small scrape of their shoes as they shifted, deciding what to try next. That sound became a symbol for me. Entitlement is always shuffling for a better angle. I did not call the police. Not then. I saved the clip and labeled it doorstep with the date and time. I texted Jenna a simple thank you with no details. I put the fireproof box back where it lived. Then I did 2 things that mark the difference between righteous anger and effective change. I decided to act only on what I could document. And I decided the next words they would receive would not be mine. They would be on letterhead. Before I slept, I walked the apartment once more the way you do before travel. Windows latched, stove off, phone charged, folders synced to cloud and drive. The small rituals of control that tell your nervous system it can relax. I looked at the car file too, the one that proved title and insurance sit under my name for a vehicle parked in Savannah's driveway and used as content. I did not move on it yet. I did not need to. Knowing what is yours is its own kind of quiet. Connect the breadcrumbs and the path is obvious. A week of escalation by performance, a year of documentation by discipline, and a house already protected by design, not by luck. The reveal is not that they tried. The reveal is that the show only worked while I stayed offstage handling the lights. Awakening ended for me not with a scream, but with a list. Names, dates, evidence, next steps. When your boundaries finally find their shape, you stop improvising. You execute. I set my alarm. In the morning, I would call Callie, not to vent, to schedule. I would send her the folder named Proof, the subfolders named Birthday and Doorstep, the statements totaling roughly $480,000, the screenshots of the group chat, the close friends clip. I would attach the trust paperwork for the condo and the title and insurance for the car. I would ask her for preservation notices and a cease and desist. I would ask her to put time on the calendar. Then I turned out the light. The room went dark. The Ring LED held its vigil steady and blue. The sky does not change when you say no. It just finally has your attention. This is where preparation replaces panic. Morning, coffee, laptop folders. I called Callie, not to vent, to schedule. We met in a glass conference room in Manhattan. She wore a navy suit and the expression lawyers say for solvable problems. I slid the proof folder across the table. 24 months of statements totaling roughly $480,000 of support. Zelle and Venmo transfers labeled groceries, insurance, utilities, rent, catch-up. Screenshots of the family group chat where my mother framed me as stressed. Jenna's screen recording from Savannah's close friends with the caption, "The envelope will move." The Ring doorbell clip from the doorstep demand. The trust paperwork for my condo already filed and notarized. The title and insurance for the Bentley Bentayga, both in my name. Callie lined everything up. "We are not going to argue in a living room," she said. "We are going to write letters. Harassment, coercion, attempted extortion. We will send cease and desist notices and preservation letters so deletions become their problem, not ours. If they push again, we file for a civil harassment order. Your job is to document, not debate. This is important. I did not announce any of this to the people causing the problem. I acted, quietly. Step 1. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. I placed a fraud alert. New lines would require my explicit say-so. I changed every password and logged out every device. Step 2. I unwound financial entanglements that should never have been mine. I ended the family phone plan with a clean 30-day notice. I removed authorized users from my card. I canceled the gas card. I terminated the temporary coverage I had extended on my insurance at renewal and sent certified letters because paper carried weight where my voice once begged. Step 3. I secured the home. The condo was already in a trust. I confirmed the file with Daniel, my father, and with the trust attorney. Deed shielded. Beneficiaries clear. Mailing address updated. Emergency contacts current. The fireproof box got a second copy of everything. One set at home, one set in a safe deposit box. Step 4. The car. The Bentley had been my biggest mistake disguised as generosity. Title in my name, insurance in my name, payments from my account. Savannah used it as a prop. That was about to end. I called the lender and the dealership. We arranged a voluntary repossession by the titled owner. I did not need a spectacle. I needed closure with a paper trail. The scheduler offered me a range of dates. I chose a Wednesday in late summer, the week after a family milestone I knew was coming. I circled it on my calendar. Not out of spite, out of symmetry. Consequences should arrive when a story peaks. Step 5. The letters. Callie's firm sent cease and desist notices and preservation demands to Linda, to Howard, to Savannah, to Marcus. They went by certified mail and by email. Signatures collected. Read receipts saved. The language was not theatrical, it was precise. Stop contacting Samantha directly. Preserve all communications and financial records related to Samantha. Further harassment will result in immediate legal action. While the letters moved through the postal system, I kept gathering. I exported the last 2 years of cloud backups so voicemails could not vanish. I renamed files with dates and a 2-word summary so a future judge or a future me could find anything in 30 seconds. I added a simple timeline: doc Sunday, ask for $40,000, birthday envelope switch for $5,000, doorstep demand recorded, letter sent on the following Friday, repo scheduled for the Wednesday after the baby shower, names and roles, who said what, where proof lived. Then I did the hardest part for people like me. I waited, calmly. The texts slowed, then stopped. Pressure hates a paper trail. Around this time, Daniel and Lisa came over for Sunday dinner. We ate simple food and talked about normal things, campaigns, and countertops. I told them the bones of the plan, not the color commentary. Daniel nodded the way builders nod when a load-bearing wall finally lines up. Lisa squeezed my hand. "You look taller," she said. "Boundaries do that." Work hummed. I mentored a new manager. I greenlit a creative concept that made my team sit up straight with pride. In my free time, I learned the names of the plants I could not kill and watered them anyway. I slept. And because Entitlement is a show that always books another venue, the next invitation arrived. A baby shower, Long Island, backyard. Script font on the sign, family first. I RSVP'd yes. Not to fight, to end the performance with facts. Callie reminded me to stay dignified. If asked, I could be present. If provoked, I could leave. If spoken about, I could choose to say nothing and let the truth run. I had one last thing to do before that day. I sent Jenna a tidy set of files with a single instruction. Use whatever you think will stop the story. She replied with a thumbs up and a sentence that made me smile. I have been waiting to watch adults react to facts. The backyard looked like a catalog. White balloons. A dessert table arranged in rows, more geometry than food. My mother took the mic like a mayor. "Love looks like sacrifice," she began. "Family first," she said again, the phrase that had done so much damage in my life and so much work for hers. Jenna caught my eye from the living room. Her phone hovered near the television. "Airplay," she mouthed. "Not yet," I mouthed back. This mattered. Timing always matters. Linda launched into the speech about how we all chip in when one of us is in need. Howard nodded with the rhythm of an amen. Savannah dabbed her eyes and touched her belly at the exact beat an editor would choose. Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders and looked like a man rehearsing. Jenna lifted her phone, the television lit. Slide 1. A screenshot from the family group chat the night before my birthday. My mother's text, "We will make it special. The envelope will move." The room murmured. People heard her voice in their heads, matching the text on the screen. Slide 2. 24 thumbnails of Zelle and Venmo transfers from me to Linda to Howard to Savannah to Marcus with dates and simple labels. Groceries. Insurance. Utilities. Rent catch-up. 2 full years. A subtitle across the bottom, roughly 40% of income, approximately $480,000. No commentary, just math. Slide 3. The close friend's screen recording. The same white envelope hours before dinner. The caption in sparkly font. The envelope will move. A green circle badge at the top, proving the post was meant for trust, not scrutiny. Someone near the TV whispered, "She posted that herself." Another person said, "That is not taken out of context." That is the context. Slide 4. The Ring doorbell clip. My mother at my door, "You do not deserve that condo." Family first. Marcus, "We need the deed, Savannah. We need a home for the baby." The audio was so clean you could hear a bird. The television made the porch look like a stage. The words looked different on a screen. Not dramatic, documented. Slide 5. Title and insurance for a Bentley Bentayga. My name at the top. A small calendar image in the corner with a Wednesday in late summer circled. Underneath one caption, "Voluntary repossession scheduled by the titled owner." That line did not require a cheer or a gasp. It required comprehension. It landed like rain on hot pavement. Sharp. Final. Jenna lowered the phone. The room shifted. You can feel it when a narrative breaks. It is the soft pop of denial losing air. Linda reached for the mic. "This is being twisted," she began, but the slides were not an opinion. They were records. Someone near the kitchen said, "That is her voice." Another relative rubbed his forehead like a man trying to separate loyalty from evidence. I kept my voice even. "The story you have been told about me ends today. I am not funding this household. I am not surrendering my home. I am done starring in a play about family where the ticket price is my self-respect." Marcus tried to pivot. "We could talk later, adult to adult," he said, as if this were a brand negotiation. "We could partner." The word partner hung there like a fly. Jenna clicked once more and the final slide appeared, 2 letterheads from Callie's firm. Cease and desist. Preservation notice. Sent by certified mail and email. Received. Signed. No one applauded. The absence of performance is not silence. It is relief. I left before dessert. Not as an exit line, as a boundary. On my way to the car, an aunt hurried to catch me. I did not know she said. I believed... She trailed off. It is all right, I said. Believe the records. The following Wednesday, exactly as scheduled, the tow truck backed into Savannah's driveway at noon. The men were polite. They did not look at her camera. She tried to block them with a speech about haters. She tried to film a reel. She cried a little when that did not change the title on a form. The neighbors watched from porches. Some shook their heads. Some took in the lesson. Consequences do not need captions. They caption themselves. Marcus lost a contract the week after. Brands are not sentimental about narratives that make them look careless. An email arrived that said a direction had changed. He posted a message about resilience and then deleted it. Gossip did the rest because gossip loves a vacuum, and the vacuum left when my money moved out. The cease and desist letters worked. The messages stopped. The phone grew quiet. No more group chat announcements narrating my mood. No more voicemails about what I owed a word as sacred as family. Compliance looks like maturity from far away. Up close, it looks like fear of consequences. They tried one last pivot on social media. Linda wrote a paragraph about forgiveness and daughters who forget where they came from. I did not reply. I do not litigate my life in comments. That is for people still waiting for a public apology from a private person. I am not waiting. Justice in my case was not a gavel. It was a slide deck. It was a truck. It was quiet. It was mine. Time jump. The condo smells like coffee and new books. Morning light pools on the floor. The snake plant thrives even when I forget it, which is funny, and also not the metaphor I want for my life anymore. I remember things now, myself most of all. Work is good. Better than good. A larger portfolio of brands. A bigger team. The title that once felt like a mountaintop looks like a staircase from here. Chief Marketing Officer. It sounds expensive and feels like clarity. I mentor young women who remind me of my old self. I tell them, competence is not consent. Generosity without boundaries is not love. It is a leak. Sundays belong to dinner with Daniel and Lisa. We have a rhythm. He asks about the week. She brings a dessert that tastes like someone thought about you while they stirred. Sometimes we talk about taking a trip that has nothing to do with content and everything to do with seeing new water. We laugh. No one makes a speech. Every now and then, a relative sends me a screenshot of a caption my mother posted. I do not open it. You can love someone and refuse to be their audience. I have not seen the Bentley since the day it left the driveway. I do not miss the badge. I do not miss the bill. The only car I think about now is the one I rent when I feel like driving to the ocean early on a Saturday. The sky is still that expensive blue. It was always there. I just had to stop funding a performance to notice. Have you ever had to choose yourself over a version of family that needed you to be a resource and not a person? Tell me where you are watching from. Tell me the boundary you drew that saved you. I will read every one. If you want more stories about building peace without losing your dignity, subscribe. Some of them are messy. All of them are true. I will leave you with the simplest measure I learned. When you say no to what harms you, nothing in the natural world changes its mind about you. The ocean still moves. The sky stays blue. The plant grows. The light arrives every morning. The quiet after justice is not empty. It is space. You fill it with a life that does not ask you to apologize for existing. Chosen family is not a consolation prize. It is a decision. Boundaries are not punishment. They are a map. And if this helped one person stop underwriting their own erasure, then every receipt was worth saving.